Today we have a fabulous webinar for you all, where we are going to look at combination products, important aspects to be considered with medical device regulations. Today I am joined by Alireza Zarei, CEO of Zamann Pharma Support, and also Herr Oliver Kohr, who's going to give the presentation to us today, being the expert in his field, CEO and head of the medical device area of EU Swissmed. We are very happy that you've joined us today. So from my point, I'm going to jump out and allow the experts to talk about these topics today. Have a fabulous presentation. And if you have any questions, type them in the chat below and we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. Over to you guys.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about some aspects of the MDR and combination products. It's a very, up-to-time topic for everybody of us. And, how do I now move to the next? Here, to us. And I'd like to give you an overview coming from a more fundamental part of combination products, the classification, the categories we do have. I will not touch certain points because it's a very big topic. Of course, as you may know, I will not go to just briefly scratch FDA here, as you've seen. I talk a little bit about there. You see the FDA has 9 types, the EU has 5 categories. So there's some discrepancies, of course, between the FDA and the EU. So I would like to really focus on the EU because that's basically around Europe after all. So that Europe's all set. And I put you in some references, some links you can use if you want to look more for FDA guidance documents. You find them here. And also I give you, just for information, you may know already, is the MDR and the Directive 2001/83/EC. That if you want to look at it, just take it and you may know this already because it's always changing all the time anyhow. As I've mentioned, I will not cover all devices as well. I will focus on, the major topics. I will not discuss many ancillary products. I want to not go into the companion diagnostics section. Again, there's a new field, again, opening up with the IVDR, then in this case, partially. Then we have medical devices with the substances on it, like stent, drug-related stent, this kind of stuff. So I will also keep this out for now, and also certain borderline products will not touch in this presentation. So the key question you have to talk about is, when you combine with a medicinal product, is what is my principal intended action, basically? What is it? So if it's achieved by the medicine, it's a medicinal product, right? And it's included in the medical device. So you have to ask yourself, it's very important, that's the intended purpose, so to speak. There's the principal intended action you have to think about. And behind this one, just set up this kind of fundamental decision, you are set for the next step. So one is the type of combination, as you said. Is it the integral? So it means, is the medicinal product an integral part of your device, or is it co-packed? Or you get it basically in the pharmacy separate. You have separate 2 boxes, so to speak. One being the medical device, one being the medicinal product. So that's then obtained separately. And this, of course, then will lead to certain implications then in the back end, so to speak, in your work, in your registration, and the filing. Also, you have to design, is it a single integrated product or is it a refillable? So this is the container, like you can fill and then you put it back into, say, like an auto-injector, or you have like a pre-filled inhaler, or like a pressurized inhaler, or you have, a drug, like a powder inhaler. So there's certain aspects you have to think about how the medicinal product is delivered or with the medical device on that. This, of course, then has certain implications on the back end. The co-packing means that you receive it, drug, medicinal product, and say your delivery device, the medical device, in one package. That means co-packed device. Then here are some examples: reusable pen for insulin cartridges, for example. It's a typical example for than co-packed or obtained several devices from that. Very important, if this is the case, the principal intended action is the medicine, then you see the EMA is responsible for evaluation, clear of the quality safety of the marketing authorization holder. That will be you in your company, for example, who will host the marketing authorization. And so you have to make a file an application with that. I now want to briefly kind of go to the medical device regulation. The medical device regulation has a transitional period. In this is back to May 26th of this year. And there are some aspects mentioned in Article 1, and I'll put that down here, 1A, is all numbers, which articles what. The key thing is that in the case, the integral product, this integral approach, product with a medicinal product, this approach, then you would need an EU certificate, or, now comes the point, an opinion from a notified body designated under the MDR for this type of question. Why designated is a very key word. You have to check there's a Nando, there's a website where you can check and search for notified body. Not every notified body has a certain accreditation for everything. So you have to look for which notified body has the accreditation for what you need your opinion for. The same applies for the medical device as such, because the MDR changed this landscape quite a bit, moving from one notified body does everything to it gets narrowed down. That gives us, of course, now the pain in the last years with all these extensions happening because notified bodies, not everybody can do everything. If the medicine bag is ancillary to the device, that means it's not integral, then, of course, you need, now comes the point, the NCA is the National Competent Authority, or EMA, you need a scientific opinion. So you see, integral in the EU certificate or opinion from the notified body, which, of course, the EMA also will look through to, or you need a scientific opinion. If the medical device is composed of substances or combination of substances, just as a remark, like this absorbable things, again, you need a scientific opinion. So you see there certain references now to the MDR where it's stated what you have to do in order to get the marketing authorization. Important thing is, as I mentioned before, is the principal mode of action. This is the key thing you have to think about. What's the mode of action? Is it the medicinal product, or is it is it principally already in red? So if the action, the medicinal product, is principal and not necessarily in the action of the medical device, then basically your DDC is governed by the medicinal framework, right? But still, you have to observe, and now comes the key point, the NDR is a huge Annex 1 you may know of, with everything you have to do, provide, risk management, what the risks you have to do, what you have to document. And this huge thing, GSPR, I'm sure you have a checklist, most likely in your company already. You have to go through and address the points of this Annex 1, the General Safety Performance Requirements, GSPR, in abbreviation I was talking. Abbreviations, of course, most likely. And in the other case, if it's ancillary, of course, it must. You don't need the CE mark, but the combination, you need the scientific opinion. But also it's helpful to have this Annex 1 really should be done. All right. So this again to combine, if you look at if the medical device now is intended to administer the medicinal product, which is also described in the NDR's reference to, some stuff repeats itself in certain, say, terminology things. You have to, it's not that you feel it's the same, but it's little nuances you may realize that they're there. So if there's a product administration device marketed as a single integral product, again, this single integral product, and exclusive for the use in the given combination. So that means your insulin with this pen, and it's not reusable. Say you have another growth hormone or whatever drug, then it's governed by the medicinal framework. In this case, the GSPR applies to the device part. So you have to make sure that you address in the device, that means your auto-injector, your pen, whatever, you have to address the Annex 1 of the medical device regulation. The other case, is co-pack, for example, in this case, you need, it says the administration must meet the requirements of the MDR. That means you have to go through all the requirements of the medical device regulation that goes then all the way down also to post-market surveillance, the life cycle management, vigilance. So you have to make sure that you look at the vigilance reporting in your PMS process. Everything there you need to basically cope with. So that gives you quite a load to look for. Okay, and then of course, I wrote this there. You will find cases where it's a little bit, now say this, tweaky, it is not clear. I would always then consult the notified body, in this case, to see what is your opinion. Is it a co-pack? Is it secondary? How would you see the approach you're taking? Something is not very clear, and there's room for interpretation. Now I would just get the notified body's opinion. Here I wrote you a little thing, this Nando website. This is a nice one you can look at. If you search for your notified body, it's from the EU, and you can have certain search impressions you can look for, and you find what you need in this website. It's a very helpful website, after all. If you have something you can look for. This combines, again, this drug device combination, again, abbreviation. I mentioned earlier DDC, another one. We love abbreviations. Basically, this is the key thing here. What you see about is the device and the same product from single integral product with a formula, yes or no. You have to ask the question, is it intended exclusively in this combination, or is it reusable? These are the key three questions you should ask yourself when you classify the DDC device. I'll give you some examples. Refill syringes, refill pens, as I mentioned earlier, nebulizers were pre-charged, EPUs. So you see, this is basically some examples for that. Going back to the Article 1, basically, the 117, the results for the assessment of the conformity part. I mean, the key thing is that you as the marketing authorization holder, when you have this, that you know what the medicinal product, basically which documents you need for that in your file, and that's the key thing. Right. This is the notes. Maybe that's a good hint. The article applies to DDCs referred to under second subparagraph. This, so you mentioned this earlier. Look at that. This is a key thing you have to look for, and it doesn't apply in case of combined advanced therapy medicinal products. These are also mentioned here in this regulation, if you want to look into. Now, the key thing is, once you have your device, you have to get it. Marketing, you have to become marketing authorization holder. You have to apply for that, and that's of course then the requirements you have to you need for this. That goes back. I touched briefly later. Then the labeling, it goes back to labeling requirements and so forth. So your requirements, labeling is very key. It goes to IFU, or say the leaflet or the instructions for use with the device, and also labeling on product, on drug, and described in your IFU. There's also some stuff which is tricky, and this is also described, say, in the regulations you have to look for. But that's something you have to be aware of. What's on the device, what's on the medicinal product, what not, right? Okay, then we go to the next point. This is something just in brief for you to jump to. It means medicine. It means if you're outside of the EU, it's just to state that the EMA will also apply the same rigorous standards of medicine. So they don't put a lower scheme to that, just that you know, even if you go outside the EU, it's the same work, basically, what you have to do. UDI, now it comes more to direction labeling. UDI, if the DC is under medicinal products for this legislation, falls under medicinal products, then you do not meet the MDR obligations related to the UDI. That's because you need the UDI, and of course, Eudamed database, we go on with this, and medical devices, Eudamed, and all these kind of things. So this kind of then gets, so to speak, eliminated. You don't need to have that. The device part related to UDI should therefore not apply to the package, right? So if it's not applicable, you don't apply to the package, right? And there you find more information in the guidance of the NCG. Co-packed, for example, co-packed stuff, give you some examples. There's a spoon, there's a cup, there's an inhaler, there's an injector, and this kind of stuff. It's wherever the secondary packaging says and does not form an integral part with the product, then you will need to do the following. You have to CE market. You're back in the medical device world, so to speak. And the MD certified novel body here has to, let's say, basically need to do that you comply with the standards here of the medical device device directive, and then after that, you need to do it and comply with the MDR. And of course, the key thing is that you have some time left in between the when you have to be, say, in compliance. Self-marked CE devices must be in compliance right away because class 1 have no transitional, say, phase as such, medical devices. So you need to be compliant already as of today with the class 1 because it's self-certified. You give yourself, you issue yourself, declaration conformity, it's all yourself. But however, you will get your notified body who audits you may then look into the documentation, the declaration conformity, and all these kind of things where you stick to the process. This is some aspects to the labeling. In the labeling, I will not go through everything. You can read it. Important is you have to be aware of, is it a medicinal product? Is it not integral? And then you know what will be the labeling aspects in the back. And there the Directive 2001/83 you have to consider, as well as the MDR, the 2017/745 you have to look for. All right. Important, declaration of conformity for co-packed medical devices. It is the responsible of the applicant, that means you as the marketing authorization holder, to ensure that the medical device is co-packed with meets the GSPR, is again and is Annex 1 thing of the MDR, and is in compliance with the entire MDR. So that's a key thing. So you have to make sure, as I mentioned earlier, you comply post-market, also back at post-market surveillance, all this work, the full thing. You have to have a full dossier with you, as a technical file or tech file, as you may know it, coming from, say, the target product profile you may see in the very early stage, design description, subsystem, design requirements, all the way through to the whole process, the whole V model, everything you have to have in your file, so to speak. That's a key for that. And that will be checked. Even if you do a self-declaration, then you notify body. I had this many times when you, with audits, your notify comes and show me I want to see this product, your tech file, I want to see maybe the risk management report, risk management plan, I want to see your design validation plan, maybe a report, a clinical assessment report. So they want to see things, and you have to be ready to submit them and to put them on the table. Okay, now some final points. Very important, but the notified body, in my experience, looks very, very close to is the risk assessment. Why? Because in the old days, the new 14971 2019 and amended in 2022, if I'm right, they look very closely. Did you do a risk management plan? Do you follow the process that detailed? If you have a product which is mainly then even with electronics talking to an app, and now we're talking of, say, digital health solutions, they look very close into cybersecurity. They look at the cybersecurity management plan. And look, did you do a cybersecurity risk assessment? You talk a lot of documents now. You see, it's a lot of stuff. You have to be aware. And those using the audits and look very close. Did you do this? It's a very, very tricky thing, and you really have to be aware of it. It's always a point where you get nice, say, findings. And they love this part, the risk management part. This for you, of course, you may know, it's the directive for medicinal products. That's the priority. Yeah, and then I wrote you down for auto-injectors. It's also, I know from my experience, it can happen. Companies are moving into the field. They don't have everything done for the testing stuff for the functional requirements. So this is all the topic now, primary functions, essential performance requirements, this kind of thing. Look for it. It's linked to the risk-based approach. So be sure that you address this right. And of course, some stands for for data such as for what you have to perform. All right, I think I'm in good time, 20 minutes, so I'm ready for you to have questions. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Kohr. Today it's your show and I just try to look good, so all the added value is coming from you. I have prepared some questions, but one point I have realized, or one point I want to mention that came up during your presentation is the Nando platform and the notified bodies. That was a very big common mistake companies did during COVID. For example, they choose a notified body for electronics to create a CE certification for personal protective equipment, which was not valid and not possible. And in that time, we had a lot of wrong CE certifications running around in Europe. It was a catastrophe. So once you try to pick your notified body to support you, make sure they are actually qualified for this particular regulation, PPE, medical devices, in vitro diagnostics, and so on. Do you have any experience in this regard? Did you see something similar? Like wrong notified bodies handing out CE certifications for other products?
And I personally only see this in China, to be honest. There were Chinese stuff was flying in the COVID times. I was also a little bit somewhat involved, and I said, no, there's something not right. You have to watch out. But today, honestly, it's a lot that gets your time a little bit into a shaky mode. If you have a notified, you had one, and most of the people know this. And they want to move to the MDR now with the transition. You have to at least file for, and then you can postpone the certification process, right? But then they say, no, we're not doing this anymore because we don't have the accreditation, say, for a patient. I say something now, pacemaker or a stent or name it. There are certain fields, and then you have a problem. Then you really have to. You had a good notifier tell you this. In Germany, they tell you this. We're not doing this anymore. You have to search you want. Sorry, and then you really have to move.
Yeah. Super interesting. Yeah, great. Okay. One question that I would like to ask you is basically there are different approaches between the FDA and the EU, of course. And what is your opinion? How do companies incorporate the challenges in product development and in the basically registration of the combination products or medical devices or EVDs in combination with the different regulatory frameworks? So is it smarter to start in the EU and then add a layer and go to the FDA? Or does it make sense maybe to go to the FDA first? What is your opinion? What is their reference companies could use maybe?
I mean, if there is one advantage, you have one single point of contact. That's maybe the smoothest, the nicest, say, approach for that. However, they differentiate a little between is it the device, is it compact, not compact? Is a separate part? Not. They have a little bit different classification. So it depends where your market is. If your key market is EU, I would go first EU market. If it's the US, I would go US first. There's a certain trend because the US is a little bit more, they're more pragmatic. They're more, having the 510Ks we did, it's not necessarily all combination products. They are far more, they try to get companies, of course, products into their country. So they are more supportive there in this process. But I would, for me, if my key market is the EU, I would do the EU right away. But you have to prepare this in advance, right? You have to know what's the major mode of action, how do I do this, how get down, do I find my antibody, all this kind of things. The same thing is with the FDA after as well, right? There's no changes. But I would make it depends on how much time. If you say you want to go to the market first EU, I would just start EU right away.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I agree that the FDA in general is more pragmatic, and more straightforward, and things might get a bit more tricky in the EU sometimes. Yeah.
For the commercial products, you have this. You have the you have certain councils. You have for the drug evaluation, it's called CDR then you have another council of biologics. When you have biologics, and then for devices, you have different account you address to, but it's you have one point of contact, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
My experience is, well, I don't have say the US takes sometimes a little more time because the questions that come back to safety are quite more profound. Where now the most tricky part is certain combination products with digital inside or attached to. You can take as a medical device. There it's usually like this gadget thing. Interesting enough, they mostly, if it's not used for, say, diagnostic control, they say it's not a medical device, careful, but usually it should be. And then in the US side, they look a lot of the cyber part. It is quite intensive, gets more and more intensive because they see the manufacturer as liable to ensure the device is safe by cyber activity, cyber attacks, and all that kind of. And that's really a lot of companies I know in Europe. We don't touch this. We're now beginning to do this, but they're very stringent, and you have to really process in place. You really have to address it. The standards, the Secure 97, the 57. They have sometimes it helps even to get. You make your list, say, of applicable standards for the cyber part product, and you check it with your team, or even with get another body to briefly cross-check. You see this as applicable when you start developing an early phase. Yeah, this general stuff. When you do a development, often you move into, I would develop a certain, say, safety concept by biologics. I mean, by the medicinal part, but also on the product side, device side. And to check this and to go to the nurse body early and to get his opinion, the principle, the concept is so sound. Because if you move on and say, wait a minute, no, it's different, you are doomed, you lose time, to be honest.
Yeah. That's super interesting. That cybersecurity now is an actual important point. If you have a medical device or combination product that is in any form or shape has digital components, that you need to make sure you have a concept in place. Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think it will open up an entire new branch, right?
Right. So it's not the drug and the MDR and the labeling and the principle mode of action, but it's now, this also comes to it, and it's increasing. More and more companies, I mean, this comes, you want to have the therapy control, you want to monitor the patient, the compliance, and all this kind of stuff. It's not necessarily, it's also maybe indirectly related to drug safety in some sense, because the patient doesn't, you can monitor this, they didn't take his power. It's therapy control aspects to it, but it's more and more important. Sometimes I think we need to see even more now stress sometimes than the others, the medicine. If it's a standard, say a biologic, a standard drug, with your product like insulin, like say growth hormone, whatever you want to apply, or say it's a powder for the COPD treatment. Mostly this goes smooth because it's already there. Doctor's there, the drug safety is there, the file is there. There's a different form of an applicator of a delivery device, right?
Yeah. Super interesting. Yeah, I think. Whenever you have any kind of diagnostics going on, of course, patient safety is directly involved, because you might use the data and the indication to determine the next dosage, the next treatment, etc. And then cybersecurity can, of course, become a very huge topic. When the data is manipulated or data integrity is not given, then you can basically throw away everything. Yeah, it's super interesting.
Right. Maybe also there, of course, then in the development of your, say, medical device, a combination product, of course, you address already the safety of delivering, Does the drug get fully delivered? There are aspects like, viscosity of the drug. Is the drug manipulated to the container when you inject it? All these kind of aspects you have to address. Now comes GSPR. Now we go to MDR, right? You address in this file that you make sure that you address the risks of, say, not enough dose, too much dose. Patient cannot, maybe if you take a heart inhaler, it doesn't take the full, full breath in. How you control this, how you monitor it. So there are many aspects. That's why risk and all this kind of stuff is also a very important part when you do the filing for the Annex 1.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for the answers. I have 2 more questions for you. So the impact of Article 117 on the MDR environment in general, especially with focus on the combination devices. So what is your opinion on your experience? Like how did the new article or the update impact organizations in their approach for marketing products in the EU?
I mean, the key impact for us is basically you need to have this opinion of a notified body. Mm-hmm. One key thing is the clinical, evaluation, and this thing was held a little bit, junior. It's now a very formalistic approach, very formal. This is the most challenging. It means more resource, more time, and more effort for this. So when you plan this what basically the most impact is, that you have this opinion. For this, you have to submit a document. You have to submit your assessment of it, and this is the most. It takes time. So the impact in the comments we know is time. What you did, maybe you add another 2 months. So whatever rough rule of thumb, full-time equivalent to that process. So you think other time was quicker, reference done. Now this is what really is taking, that's what, it's more time. And this generally MDR takes more time or effort. It's not anymore doing the simple thing, quote, we know. It's far more effort.
Yeah, in general, everything gets more regulated, everything gets more complex. So everybody has to calculate with a bit more effort, of course, in general. Maybe in future, new tools, new AI tools, I don't know. Yeah, I think it will happen sooner or later. They will take change.
There's a guidance of the FDA already on AI. It's happening. So they're moving ahead. Actually, one fun part for everybody is the UK. There's a UK notified body, there's a UK competent authority, UKRP, UK representative RP, responsible person. When you go, more fun part on this side. But the good thing is it's a formalistic approach, mostly UKRP in this case. You need somebody in UK to does this, but the standards and regulations are basically copy-paste because they know the British people, if you do everything new, you take decades. Yeah, and they do this basically, but it's a formalistic approach. Important, maybe a side note on the declaration conformity. There's a UK declaration conformity now. It has to be separate from the EU DOC, separate. So this is more fun part happening from the relation.
Yes, super interesting. Yeah, great. Thank you for the answers. The last question is one question I personally like a lot because we might be affected as well by this. So on the 26th of May this year, the transition period basically ends and everybody has to be completely compliant with the MDR and the new regulations, etc. Yeah, I have a question in this regard. So first of all, of course, how compliant is the market really? But if you as a person and as an expert needed to give a rough estimation, would you say 90% of the companies are already compliant, 50%? What is your estimation there?
I would say not 90, a little bit below that. I would say maybe 60 or so percent. But I would stay a little bit, I would monitor the EU with its notifications and proposals to the Parliament. And you had this earlier in January happening this year. So they know where they're at, and to ensure supply of products to the market for the patient safety patient health, right? That's the key. Usually it can happen that they propose another extension. I do this, I always merge with this thing. And usually it happens quite, maybe not closely. I will look up it again, but it will happen. I'm pretty positive if they feel not everyone is ready, they will make an extension.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Super. Great.
If you are the medical device, different rules apply. If you are on the medical device, you have a medical device, you have different rules again applying. You can go up to 2028 now, 27, 28. So So for medical devices, if you go under the combination product, the device is a medical device, you have to check then if it's a class 2A to B, there are different rules.
Yeah, the dates have been moved so often. I have completely lost track. Yeah, I need to check again.
Exactly. Yeah. That's true.
Great, wonderful. Okay, thank you. Candice, do we have any questions from the audience, maybe?
We did have one question pop in here. Here we have a question asking, do you see the difference in the length of the application process for the FDA? So is the FDA faster?
If your documents are complete, they're usually faster because they have this strict rule. They have a response in 90 days. They're very strict rules. They follow these rules. But also you have to, in case of questions, you have to respond very quick. But usually, if it's smooth, it's faster.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Because not everybody are overwhelmed. I mean, I had one case we supplied last year, and I didn't hear back ever since. It's amazing, but it's true. We find, we have so much work to do. And I said to not everybody, it's okay, that's life. But it's not everybody. There's a lot of cases, and some people are overwhelmed, and they have not enough, say, experts, SMEs, because you have to be an expert in field to do certain, say, evaluations, assessments, and then it takes far longer. Usually FDA is, if you're good, half year, FDA.
Mm. Good, great, yeah, great orientation, I think, for everybody to know. Yeah, wonderful.
Very good.
Mr. Kohr, maybe you can tell us 1 or 2 sentences about your company, EU Swissmed. Like maybe the audience would be interested in hearing what you could provide.
Yeah. Okay. EU Swissmed, we're a company. We're specializing in regulatory support in writing tech files, assessing tech files, improving that, supporting in development. We have one branch experts field in clean room, say for pharma products as well as medical products. So we can make sure that if you have to kind of assess your clean room environment, we have people to do this. We have do sterility assessment, make sure that you follow processes, standards, and also we support FDA 510K filings or IDEs for customers. We have support for clinical studies we do with Canada. We have a branch open in Canada, in Montreal, where we have good contacts with the Canadian, say, clinics and authorities, because in Canada, usually you can go a little bit even quicker. It's cheaper, not as expensive as the US approach. If you have to take 2 clinic, or say for a clinical study, 2 in the US, it's quite costly. In Canada, usually is a little bit, say, less costly. Your advantage, Canadian approval is accepted in the US.
Hey, smart. That's the reason why you should save money.
We're really, say, hands-on, so we're not, say, super theoretical. The thing is that you as a customer have to have a solution, and it has to be that you get your certificate. You have to get, say, if you have an issue in your QMS, you have to solve this, or you're solving your supply chain. We do this very, say, hands-on, confined, and then important is that the customer is satisfied with that. That's what we do.
Always, yeah. And I hope that during the year we will have Mr. Kohr come back as a guest here and there to keep this ball rolling of very valuable information and helping the market, helping customers, and hopefully also developing some good networking.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, pleased to do so.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful day and have a great weekend.
Wonderful. Thanks for participating, everyone.
Bye.